Welcome back to Cryptos Are Us. I'm George. We're all George. So good morning. Welcome to another Market Open stream. Today, unfortunately, we have some bad news. Genesis Lending files for bankruptcy. So what does this mean exactly? And why did we see a $200 million deposit into the exchanges right after this news broke? Let's talk about these things and what else is going on in the world today. Welcome, guys. Let's just jump right in. I usually cover the market. It's not open yet, but let's take a look at this. I think most of you guys watching knew that this was it's coming or was going to happen, right? Genesis, which is the lending arm of DCG, they shut down withdrawals, I don't know, maybe a month ago, right? And there's been a lot of drama over this. DCG is an absolute beast in the crypto space. Okay, they own Grayscale, they own Genesis, they own CoinDesk, they own a lot of assets, very valuable assets. But Genesis, unfortunately, like all the other lending businesses out there, they've been struggling. They've been trying to patch this hole, which unfortunately, they weren't not able to. Became a little too over leveraged when Luna collapsed, Three Arrows collapsed. Three Arrows Capital, in particular, borrowed a ton of money from all these lending businesses, and at that time, Three Arrows Capital was still seen as one of the premier fund companies in crypto. So a lot of these guys lent them billions, while being very uncollateralized or no collateral at all, right? And unfortunately, when Three Arrows Capitals went down, all these guys are now owed billions, and now they have this hole they need to patch, and Genesis has never been able to do it. Now, why this sucks is because Genesis traditionally has only worked with institutions, but they did partner up with Gemini, and Gemini's EARN program, right, was actually more of a retail service rather than an institutional service. So even though vast majority of the customers hurt are institutions, but there are a lot of retail investors that are hurting right now too. But anyways, that's kind of like a quick recap of how Genesis works and what happened. But yeah, they filed for bankruptcy protection today. Okay, so we know that the others, Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, now Genesis, they've all filed for bankruptcy, and none of them have been resolved so far. Voyager, I would say, is the closest. They were going to sell to FTX. Now they're selling to Binance.US. The SEC petitioned to block that, but the judge that's overhearing the case is pushing it through. So hopefully that one gets resolved soon and people get some of their money back once Binance.US takes over. Celsius is ongoing. BlockFi is still ongoing. BlockFi is more difficult because, hey, that's 8:30. Because BlockFi is actually owed a lot of Robinhood shares because Sam Bankman-Fried did put down FTX shares or Robinhood shares as collateral, so they're fighting to get that. So that may take some time. Very confusing case. But with Genesis, doesn't seem very confusing. I mean, they have a huge hole. A huge hole. $3.5 billion owed to the top 50 creditors, and a ton, about $800 million, $766 million owed to Gemini customers. So the retail side of things, about $800 billion, and that is what Gemini is trying to recover. Now, we know publicly Cameron Winklevoss has been attacking Barry Silbert, I keep calling him Silbert, Barry Silbert, DCG, and Genesis, and of course, Cameron tweets once again. But, I mean, Cameron, I know he's doing this because of damage control, because it doesn't look good for Gemini. And also, both Gemini, Cameron continues to attack. He says, let's see here. The good news is, by seeking the protection of bankruptcy court, Genesis will be subject to judicial oversight and required to provide discovery into whatever that brought them to this point. And then, all right, here. Genesis into bankruptcy does not insulate Barry, DCG, or any other wrongdoers from accountability. We are prepared to take direct legal action against Barry and DCG and others who share responsibility for fraud that cause harm. So basically, to sum up, Cameron's like, hey, we're going to sue them, but, they're accusing them of fraud, right? So we'll see if that's the case, because I don't know if Barry and others within DCG and Genesis really committed fraud like SBF, where they commingled customer funds and swashed it around between entities, or maybe Barry and others, they're just negligent. They were careless. They got too over leveraged, right? That's different from fraud, but that's not what Cameron's saying. Cameron believes for sure there is fraud, and they're going to get to the bottom of it, supposedly, right? So I don't know. Cameron is still very, very angry. Supposedly he's been trying to work with DCG and Genesis for months, and they have been basically non-responsive, right? So I guess we'll see where this goes, but the good news is, despite this big bankruptcy, Bitcoin is still holding at 21,000. I mean, that is fantastic, right? That kind of shows you how strong Bitcoin is right now. Because when FTX fell, boom, right? Bitcoin fell down huge. When Three Arrows Capital fell, when Celsius fell, Bitcoin had huge, huge dips. And right now, Bitcoin has not dipped one bit. One bit. That shows you how strong Bitcoin is right now. Now, there's some exposure also to Bybit that's kind of leaking out, because one of the companies that Genesis owes money to is this one called Marana, which is investment arm of Bybit. Okay, so if you take a look at this, there's about 151 million owed to Marana, and people are wondering if Bybit has exposure, because Bybit also offers an earn program, and people are wondering where the interest is coming from, right? Is it also from Genesis, or is there some other way they're doing it? I don't know, but the CEO of Bybit is doing a little damage control right now, saying that full transparency, everything is okay, but people are wondering why he didn't come out with this right away when Genesis, shut down withdrawals, right? So I guess just be careful. Like when all the others came down, I told you guys, never too late to be protecting your own crypto. Self-custody wallets, they exist. If you're concerned about any exchange, right? Well, safeguard your own crypto. Put on your own wallet. Then you don't have to worry about withdrawals being suspended or stopped, or exchanges going under, or anything like that, right? Never too late to get a ledger, or download a mobile wallet like Trust Wallet or something like that, and safeguard your own crypto. All right. But I did see this, though. So people spotted that about $200 million worth of Bitcoin went back into exchanges, specifically Binance, right? So that sounds pretty big. And, of course, this is probably from the institutions or the big whales that are scared that something may happen with this bankruptcy news, right? As of right now, nothing has happened. Bitcoin, like I said, is holding above 21,000, but I guess let's see if volatility is going to come, if we're going to see some kind of dumping soon. But right now, it does seem like the entire market is holding very, very strong, which is another indicator that we're coming up from bottom. So I guess we'll watch for that. But in the meantime, there are a lot of Bitcoin shrimps and crabs that continue to increase their holdings. In fact, they hold over 4 million Bitcoin. And what does that mean? Who is a crab? Well, crabs are people that hold anywhere from 0.1 to 10 Bitcoins. It's a big gap, okay? But most of you guys watching are within this range, 0.1 to 10. And you can see that huge spike, right? Especially in the second half of 2022, entering 2023. A ton of accumulation. That's awesome. Awesome. And what about shrimp positions? Well, shrimp is anything under 1 Bitcoin, right? Mostly retail, I would say. Well, even crabs are retail, but shrimps, a little bit less than 1. Still, you could see it skyrocketing, right? So everything I've been covering, still in play. The fundamentals of Bitcoin continue to grow stronger. People that are holding, people that are entering the space, both going up. The hash rate, a lot of people worried about the miners leaving. Bitcoin's hash rate is at an all-time high. The fundamentals of Bitcoin continue to grow. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And then lastly, I did see this. Brett Harrison, which was he was the ex-president of FTX.us. He raised $5 million from the likes of Coinbase Ventures, Circle Ventures, and even Anthony Scaramucci for a new DeFi company aimed at institutions called Architect. Quite interesting. So I guess guess a lot of people really trust this guy, even though he was the head of FTX.us. He did resign before the whole thing came down, but I guess a lot of people still trust him. All right. Outside of these things, the U.S. market opened mixed. Red for Dow, green for NASDAQ, right? Netflix had a huge earnings yesterday. Subscribers added in the quarter, like doubled what analysts thought. Awesome. But today I'm having some connection issues today. My internet is cutting in and out, so hopefully I'm not cutting off too much. But I was going to say the big tech giants are definitely laying people off right now. So unfortunately, this is happening. And unfortunately, this is what Powell wants to see is unemployment go up, wages come down, and jobs come down. We're starting to see that. All right, and then like I said, Bitcoin is still holding about 21,000, which is very, very positive considering we just saw Genesis file for bankruptcy, and the overall market cap is up today, slightly, 1.28%. Again, very nice despite the bad news. All right, let's do some Q&A. All right, welcome everyone. Utero 77, I appreciate that. All right, let me scroll up here. Elite Studio, BTC, strong AF. Yes, very, very right now. Let's see. Crab beer or shrimp beer? I don't know. Both sound kind of gross. Steve Greenberg, appreciate it. Glenn says, hey, George, why do you only talk about the U.S. market? Well, I can't cover every single market, right? I am based in the U.S., but I do talk about Europe and UK quite often. I've talked about Japan and their problems, right? But primarily based in the U.S. Barack or Barrick. My 100K portfolio is down to 65. I did 55, 25, 25. For 2023, I'll continue to DCA $700 a week. Realistically, when I expect next bull run? I can't tell you what to expect next bull run. All right. They're two different things. DCA is the right way to go. Right. The next bull run, I think, will be tremendous. We're going to see more money flowing into this space than any previous bull runs and any previous cycles, right? So I think the next bull run will be glorious. Let's just put it that way. George, I want to buy a Model Y long range. You think this new price will be over soon? I think after March, there may be a chance they raise prices back up. Because right now, what Tesla's trying to do is basically like bankrupt the IRS. I don't think the IRS expected that they're going to be paying out so much EV tax credits because they purposely excluded Teslas. And Elon's like, no, you're not going to do that. And he lowered the prices just so people could take advantage. So if you have that tax credit, EV tax credit, plus, the lower prices, I mean, Tesla's going to have the craziest Q1 ever in history. And the IRS is going to be paying out billions. Nathan, what is the project you're keeping your eye on for the next bull run? I'm keeping my eye on AI stuff now. I wasn't quite sure about AI, and I still think it's too early in the crypto space. But there's no doubt there's a lot of enthusiasm over AI right now, especially with Microsoft's big investment, basically entering the space in a big way with ChatGPT, $10 billion investment. So I do think a lot of people are looking at AI plays, so I'm going to keep my eyes more carefully on them. Hypersonic crypto. I appreciate it. Hopefully you heard my joke the other day about an Englishman, a Frenchman, and an Asian walking into a bar. And MCT, there's a scenario no one is thinking about regarding inflation. What if inflation remains going sideways due to gas and oil remaining enemies of the current administration? Well, I think the U.S. proved that there's more than enough reserves, and if you remove the gas tax, you could keep gas prices low, right? I mean, a gallon gas is like low $3. At one point, it went into the $2 range, right? So I don't think that's really. I guess it shows you how inflated it was before versus what it could be, which is now, right? But even if inflation goes sideways, it probably will. But I don't think that's the case because we had, let's just put it this way, we had macro stuff that's been affecting prices in a bad way. One is energy, but it's much worse in Europe than it is here. The United States is actually, I think, the largest producer of oil. We just don't sell it nearly as much as the Middle East, but we're the largest producer of oil. So we have plenty of oil. We could drop gas prices down to $1 if we really wanted to. But the other thing is supply chain, which is increasing, which is improving, I should say. Production and manufacturing from China is improving. And, that's going to help huge, right? And plus the rate hikes, I think we're already seeing the effects of that. I mean, when you have big tech giants, laying people off, basically Powell trying to make people poor or broke, it's working. So, of course, people are going to spend less, which will also drop prices. So I don't think inflation will just go sideways. It might not come down as fast as people think or want, but I don't think it's going to be extended sideways. I don't know. It could. I don't know. Just my 2 cents. Terry, SBF is getting... No, he's not. He's at home with his parents, so no, not yet. But speaking of SBF, I will be releasing a video tonight. Hopefully, first of many, if you guys enjoyed. If you don't, I'm not going to do it anymore. But SBF Adventures. Johnny 5, hey, whenever you can make it, I appreciate it. Can't believe the FTX news. Are you talking about Brett Harrison, or are you talking about FTX yesterday, possibly coming back to life and being rebooted? That would be crazy. If FTX.com and FTX.us were both rebooted, I don't know. Then something's really, really off. You think we'll dump before the Fed meeting? I don't know. We could go down a little bit. We could have some volatility. Doesn't necessarily mean we dump, because I think most people are anticipating dovishness from Powell. So actually, the markets could pump before he speaks. What do you think about U.S. paying out millions in Bitcoin to airport hackers on Fox News is the reason why Bitcoin pumped to from 16? You know, Ryan, that's complete horseshit. I just have to laugh at that. Do you know the amount of money it would take to drive Bitcoin from 16,000 to 21,000? We're talking about tens to hundreds of billions. Okay, you think buying like 5 million, 10 million of Bitcoin is going to drive prices up? There are people that hold hundreds to billions of Bitcoin. If it was that easy, they'd just buy a little bit and drive things much higher. No, that whole thing, I think, is utterly horseshit. Again, probably created by the naysayers to try to get people to be doubting Bitcoin's recent price rise, to get people to sell their Bitcoin, likes of Jim Cramer and Peter Schiff trying to scare Bitcoiners, thinking, well, this is nothing, this is only due to that. It's utterly horseshit. You could look in the order books. There's plenty of multi-million-dollar buys, and they make Bitcoin go up like $1. Like, it takes billions to cause it to go up thousands of dollars. Which utility-based projects are you looking at? I don't know. They're all utility-based, really. All L1s and L2s are utility-based because all dApps run on top of them, Dan. and I don't have any 100x projects. How immune is BTC from whale games and pump and dumps? Well, obviously not that immune. We have seen plenty of pump and dumps or manipulation or volatility with Bitcoin. Yeah, it could still definitely be manipulated, but it takes enormous amount of money for it to happen. Now you can, some people have taken advantage of leverage exchanges. We have seen BitMEX before, Bitfinex, FTX utilize their leverage to kind of multiply their buying or selling power, right? But we haven't seen that much recently. And you could argue maybe most of it was just being done by SBF himself, and he was counter trading the market. Ever since FTX went down, we don't see that much. Stake data on Trust Wallet January 2nd, but still nothing. I'm sure it's coming, but it may not be that easy. Is there a way to prove Grayscale's BTC holding? Their auditors. I don't know who DCG hired for their quarterly audit, right? But I'm sure they can verify. Captain Nakamoto, I still think the FUD will continue until the elites are satisfied with having enough Bitcoin. Well, of course. But are they ever satisfied enough, right? It's a game right now, okay? When it comes to Bitcoin, it's a game of accumulation. Who can accumulate the most? Okay? When it comes to everything else, you could argue, well, George, that's the same. But with everything else, there's an infinite supply. With dollars, there's an infinite supply. The Fed can spin out the money printer and print trillions. They do every year. That's why we have inflation problems, because they just print trillions. And with everything else, there's an infinite supply. But with Bitcoin, there's a set supply. That's why the accumulation is more important, because there's only so many, 21 million, and so many have been lost. Right? So the big boys, they will continue to do what they can to drive FUD so that they can accumulate. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Which exchange has Monero? There's a few overseas ones. In the United States, I think they all delisted. AGIX 10x next 6 months. I'm feeling it. No, there's no 10x plays, I believe, in the next 6 months. Next 6 months, we're probably going to see a little recovery like what we're seeing right now. But I don't think we're going to see any crazy FOMO into the space. It doesn't make sense. The second half of this year, we could see a little bit more FOMO, a little bit more uptrend. But I don't see anything doing 10x in the next 6 months. If BlackRock is looking to buy BTC and buy masses, why aren't we seeing them pump back to 40 or 60K? Well, because they're not idiots. They're not buying it on Coinbase. They're not putting $10 billion on Coinbase on a spot market to buy. They're buying slowly OTC, and they have accumulated a lot. When you buy OTC, it doesn't affect the price at all, because it doesn't affect the order books. No one knows how much you bought, what price you bought it for. It doesn't affect things. Right? These big boys, they're doing OTC. They're not doing on spot market. Have you heard of Tap Global? No, I have not. Other than 1 million people trying to shill it in live chat, which has me very worried about it. A lot of people's been asking about it. So I don't know who's been talking about it or who's trying to pump it, but I'll get to it eventually, but that has me concerned. Whenever I hear about a project I'm not familiar with being talked about a ton in live chat, that's usually when it's about to fall. Honestly, every single time. So I'll look into it, but no, not familiar with it. Which AI projects in crypto do you see promising? There's only a few. There's really only a few. Singularity, Fetch, and the other one is like Ocean. So there's not that many, and most of them are either incubator or data marketplace. So I mean, Fetch is a little bit different. They are their own chain. They want to deploy these AI agents that will basically they basically do commands without you telling them, right? Like smart contracts, like AI, like they execute smart contracts by learning over time, right? It sounds interesting, but most are still very early, very early. I don't understand OTC thing. You can't, okay? Don't worry about it. You're not a big institution. If you want to buy $1 million, $5 million of the Bitcoin, go to Coinbase and say, I want to buy OTC. They'll sell it to you directly at a set price. Okay? So normal retail investors cannot buy OTC. I mean, the other way to look at it is if you do a person-to-person transaction. Okay? You know someone that has 100 Bitcoins and you want to buy a few off of him. You guys determine a price. He'll send it to you. You give him the payment. That's off the order books. That's how it is, right? Just think about that. If you buy Bitcoin directly off someone, off the exchanges, will the exchanges ever know? Will the order books on exchanges ever know? The answer is no. It's the same thing when the big boys do it. They just find a big whale that's trying to sell and a big whale is trying to buy, and they make a transaction. It's just that simple. Anyone could try ChatGPT. I mean, it's free program that you can try. Eventually they're gonna lock it down, but it's pretty useful. Although it's not that intelligent yet because they cut it off from the internet. So the potential is once it is connected to the internet, like what Microsoft's trying to do with Bing, I think it could be a game changer. Like literally, it could do so many things. Dan, no, I have no idea who they are. I feel on large scale we're still trending down for a bit, at least until rates are more lax. Large scale, what do you mean by that? Obviously, crypto is not trending down anymore. Can it go back down? Sure. But it's not trending down anymore. Are you talking about the US market? I think the US market is also not trending down. I think it's more sideways movement. Existing home sales fell for the 11th consecutive month. Slowest pace since November 2010. Well, that's good. That's good. It's bad if you're trying to sell a home right now. But it's fantastic when it comes to making Powell more dovish. That's really good. That's really good. Has no one seen Terminator? It's funny. Elon has said that AI will just get rid of humans, kind of like the Terminator movies. But he himself is creating a Tesla bot, and he's doing Neuralink. So he's actually pushing us towards, the Terminator scenario, right? Even though he says he's scared of it. I don't know. No, ChatGPT and Alexa are not comparable. It's so different, so different. They have really locked down ChatGPT. Um, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be the ultimate assistant once it's unlocked fully and plugged into the internet. I mean, it's gonna be wild. Yeah, that's why Microsoft is buying 49% of ChatGPT. They're giving them $10 billion. Think about it. It's finally a way for Microsoft to try to catch up to Google when it comes to search. And it could blow away Google. So I'm sure Google is working on something equivalent right now. Bitcoin is still strong despite the Genesis news. Genesis bankruptcy news is not good at all, but look at Bitcoin still trending upwards. Fantastic. Fantastic. Early place. Appreciate that big super chat. Appreciate your support. I do what I can. Do I watch finance shows? No, I don't. Because I feel like they regurgitate the same thing over and over and over. The difference between like now and say 20 or 30 years ago is you could get all the information that these financial analysts have, and you could be ahead of the game. That's why so many people, I feel like so many people that have invested in, say, Tesla early on or Bitcoin early on, right? They did their own research. They got in because they believed, right? And they profited handsomely because of it. And you don't need analysts to tell you that because you could do your own research, right? Like 30 years ago or 20 years ago, the research was much harder because information wasn't as readily available. So these days, you got a lot of people on TV, on CNBC, telling you, well, I think it's going to do this or this or that. I mean, they're just guessing along with everyone else, right? So I just don't see much value into that. Unless I'm trying to learn about something completely new, I have no idea. Then sometimes I watch just to kind of pick up on things. Foodie tipsters, appreciate it. Is a new Toyota Sequoia worth it or go with Jeep Wagoneer? The Grand Wagoneer, in my opinion, okay, I know people will not like this opinion because people love Toyotas. And Toyota is by far the most reliable, most dependable brand. And their trucks especially last forever, right? But the new Sequoia, to me, is not that impressive. And there's a lot of shortcomings with the new Sequoia. Even though it's a big SUV, they still use a archaic suspension, so it gives it a stiffer ride. The third row seating, the trunk space, very small versus competition. They don't have the most technology. The comfort level is not near their competitors. So I'm not that impressed with Sequoia. But I would say when I tested the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer is different than Wagoneer. Grand Wagoneer is more like the luxury version of it, but the Grand Wagoneer blew me away. It was amazing. Amazing. It was probably the most comfortable car I've ever tested. Had every single technology available. Very big. Drove very well, very fast. The Grand Wagoneer is impressive. But the one downside to it is it looks really weird. Jeep gave it a really weird look with a lot of chrome trims all around places that should not have chrome trim. So the only one that I would consider is the Obsidian one, which blacks out all the chrome. So then it looks much better. But the Grand Wagoneer was impressive. Really impressive. Okay. Footsie. Vitalik donates all these meme coins because he doesn't want to control them. These meme coins just donate 50% to him. Right? So I'm not sure if you're trying to get me to look at Doge Elon Mars or this foundation. But either way, I'm not terribly excited about either. Wagoneers for Sasquatch hunters. They love that look. I don't even know how to respond to that. And the market turning very green today. What is look at it. Look at Netflix. Skyrocketing today. Coinbase up 3%. That's good. Tesla up 3%, 4%. That's good. This is a good day overall. What truck do you like beside the Ford Lightning? The Ram. Ram 1500. If you're looking for a base truck, Ram 1500 is the best. Again, not from a lot of people hate on Ram because they had a lot of transmission issues. I think it's been resolved, but if you look at Ram 1500, even with the redesigned F-150, Ram 1500 is a better truck. Ram 1500 is the best truck there is, by far. Silverados, their interior is so dated. Even the redesigned F-150, the Ram 1500's interior is just better. And with air suspension, it just rides better. I mean, there's so much more features on the Ram than anyone else. So again, the caveat for the Ram 1500 is I think it looks weird. The front end looks really roundish. Only the Rebel kind of looks more mean, but the regular Rams, they look not as aggressive. Let's just put it that way. But I'm a big Ford guy. I would take a F-150 any day. Elron bought Utrust. I didn't hear about that. Well, first of all, they're not called Elron anymore. They're called Metaverse X or something like that, some weird name. And I never liked Utrust. I think that's a horrible project. Utrust is like trying to be PayPal, decentralized PayPal, but there's a remediation, which is essentially making it like a PayPal. You need. They will lock up the payments from the vendors, and that defeats the purpose then, right? So that's why Utrust's model never made any sense. If you had 150K, what supercar would you buy? Well, with 150K, supercars, most supercars are 200 plus, right? The only one for 150K that you can get is the new Z06. That's it. Is it possible that the crypto market reaction to Genesis news shows that anyone who was going to sell already has? Yes, I think that's what. I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, people already knew this was coming. This arguably was already priced in. And plus, everyone, how bottoms are formed is basically the retail investors that can't take it anymore, they sell. And the reason why we hit 15,000 was basically everyone everyone panic sold. Everyone that wanted to get out, couldn't hold anymore, got out. And what we're left with are the long-term holders and the miners and everyone else, right? And then as people continue to DCA and bought the dip, we slowly came up. It's really that's how it works. There's no other magic to it. So I do think that's correct. Greg, you know what? I've been actually hunting. There are a few being sold around the country at MSRP. I saw one being sold for 120 yesterday, and there's a couple being sold for 140s. I actually reached out to them. It was very late at night, but you know the premium on the Z06 are starting to come down. Not that many people are buying or shopping for supercars these days. ChatGPT can't self-learn, so no, it won't. I'm not quite sure it can't. Yeah, it's not true AI. True AI is a sentient, being basically that could think for itself. No, ChatGPT has not gotten there yet, but it can amass a vast amount of information and digest it in a way that us humans cannot, right? So we still have to program it to do certain things, but they can do things that are quite amazing. Could digest way more and process way more at a much faster speed. So we're not quite up to 100% AI. And I don't think we want to be at 100% AI. We don't want a sentient program because then it really would lead to Skynet and the destruction of humans. We don't want that. We just want something that's very, very useful to us, right? That can do things at a much easier and faster pace than humans. But we don't want a sentient program. All right. I think let's call it a day. So overall, Bitcoin is still holding. Crypto still trending up despite this bad news from Genesis, right? I think this was already priced in. A lot of people kind of anticipated this was going to happen, which it did. So we'll see. We'll see if we'll see how this weekend goes. We're having Chinese New Year this weekend, right? some people asked me, are we going to see, I don't know, is it going to affect Bitcoin? Is it going to get volatile this weekend? I don't know. Maybe. But usually by now, we would see it already. But because of how strong Bitcoin is right now, we're not seeing anything. Bitcoin volatility is really, really low right now. And that's fantastic. That's what we want. We want to see Bitcoin hold at these levels, trend sideways for a little bit, consolidate, and get ready for the next leg up. All right. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. Tonight I'll have something special for you guys, so don't miss it. And have a good one. Oh, no, I forgot. Oh, before I go, take a look at this.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larsen.